They met when the world still felt simple. Mira, with her sketchbook always tucked under her arm, was the kind of girl who looked at the world like it was art waiting to be understood. Oriv was the quiet achiever, always focused, always driven, but with a softness in his eyes that only she seemed to notice. They weren't loud about their love. There were no grand declarations. Just soft moments, fingers brushing under tables, glances that said everything words couldn't. Their story unfolded gently. College days turned into shared dreams, and eventually, vows exchanged under a soft sky. Life was never extravagant, but it felt whole. He would bring her morning coffee without asking, and she would leave notes in his briefcase before meetings. Every smile, every pause, felt like a silent promise. I'm here. I choose you. Evenings were their quiet rituals, her with a paintbrush, him with his laptop, but always together. Sometimes they didn't even speak for hours, but their silence never felt empty. There was safety in it, a rhythm only they understood. She remembered once, during a blackout, they sat by candlelight, no phones, no distractions. He had looked at her and said, even in the dark, I see you. That night, she had whispered to herself, this is it. This is love. Years passed, and nothing felt missing. Friends envied their bond, her parents adored him, and she believed with every breath that love, when nurtured quietly, could last forever. He never forgot anniversaries. He knew how she liked her tea. She remembered the way he smiled when she wore blue. No fights, just occasional disagreements that always ended in laughter or soft apologies. It felt like two souls growing in sync, quietly rooting for each other. She thought, maybe love wasn't about fireworks, it was about consistency, about quiet promises made daily, without ever being spoken aloud. Sometimes at night, when he was asleep, she'd trace her fingers along his collarbone and wonder how she'd gotten so lucky. There were no doubts, no cracks. He was hers. And she was his. That was enough. Even when work got busy, when life got loud, they always came back to each other. Like magnets. No matter the distance, no matter how tired, he'd pull her close at night, press a kiss to her temple, and whisper, "Good night, Mira." That ritual, those two words, became her lullaby. A quiet reassurance that even as the world spun madly outside, her world was still him. She never thought love would be tested. Not theirs. Theirs was built on years of choosing each other, again and again. So when things slowly started to shift, she didn't notice. Or maybe, she chose not to. Because when you've built your life on silent promises, it's hard to believe one day, they might stop being. It started with longer hours. Deadlines, he said. More projects, more clients, more pressure. Mira understood. She always had. She packed his lunches, left reminder notes in his car, even sent late-night texts to remind him to eat. He responded at first. Then, slowly, the replies got shorter. Then delayed. Then nothing. Dinner grew cold more often. The silence between them stretched wider, not comfortable this time, but loaded. She noticed the way he avoided her eyes when he walked in late, how his smile didn't quite reach. He still said he loved her, but it sounded more like habit than feeling. She told herself not to overthink. Everyone goes through rough patches. Love isn't always perfect. But then there were the little changes. He started dressing better. Not for her, but for work. He began guarding his phone more, turning the screen away, carrying it with him everywhere, even to the bathroom. She didn't snoop. She wouldn't. Trust was something sacred between them. Still, doubt crept in quietly. She tried to talk to him, asked if everything was okay. He said he was just tired. That he was doing all this for them, for a better future. She nodded, forcing a smile, believing him because she wanted to. But the loneliness was sharp. Nights became longer, emptier. Her paintings grew darker, less hopeful. She missed him, even when he was right there beside her. His body was present, but his mind felt elsewhere. Somewhere she couldn't reach. Then came the name. Ria. He mentioned her once, quickly, casually. Just a co-worker. Mira remembered nodding, pretending it didn't sting. But that name stuck. A few days later, she saw it again. A message preview, "Can't wait for tomorrow." She didn't react. Not right away. She stared at that message for hours, turning it over in her mind. Maybe it was innocent. Maybe she was being paranoid. But something inside her cracked, just a little. She stopped painting for a few days. Her world suddenly felt too loud, too quiet, too confusing all at once. She tried to recreate their old routines. Made his favorite dinner. Played their song. Lit the candles he once said made the house feel like home. But he barely noticed. Ate quickly, scrolled through his phone, and left the table without a word. She laid awake that night, staring at the ceiling, trying to remember the last time he had really looked at her. Not just seen her, but seen her. The worst part wasn't anger. It was the growing emptiness, the ache of being invisible in your own love story. The realization that maybe, just maybe, she was holding on to something that no longer existed. But she still held on. Because letting go meant accepting that the person she loved most might already be halfway gone. And she wasn't ready for that truth. Not yet. The confirmation came not with shouting or drama, but in silence. A single message on his screen, glowing in the dark. I miss last night already. That was it. No name, no photo. Just enough. Enough to make her stomach drop and her hands go cold. She didn't cry. Not right away. She stared at the screen until the light dimmed and the truth settled like stone in her chest. This wasn't a suspicion anymore. It was real. Her worst fear had shape now. And a pulse. She could have confronted him that night. But what would she say? She already knew. The lies, the distance, the vacant smiles, it all made sense now. She waited. Observed. Measured every word he spoke against the one on that screen. And it all cracked under its own weight. He came home late again. Said he was stuck at work. She nodded. Said nothing. Just watched how he avoided her eyes, how his voice faltered for a split second. She noticed the perfume that wasn't hers. The way he showered before speaking. It was all there. All the little betrayals lined up, finally visible. Days passed. She floated through them, detached, still functioning, still making breakfast, still folding his shirts. But everything felt mechanical. Her world had tilted, and she was pretending gravity still worked. When she finally spoke, it wasn't a confrontation. Just a quiet moment in the kitchen. She asked, "Are you in love with her?" He froze. Said her name without realizing. That was enough. He didn't deny it. Didn't lie. Said it just happened. That he didn't mean for it to. That it was a mistake. A weakness. A moment that turned into something else. He looked at her like he wanted forgiveness, like his guilt would be enough to fix it. She stood there, listening, holding the edge of the counter like it might keep her from falling. He said he didn't want to lose her. That he still loved her. That the other woman didn't mean anything. But something inside her had already gone quiet. She realized then that love, once betrayed, doesn't echo the same. The silence that followed his confession wasn't shock. It was clarity. She didn't scream. Didn't ask for reasons. Because explanations don't unbreak promises. Regret doesn't erase betrayal. All she said was, "You made a choice. Now I have to make mine." He begged. Apologized. Reached for her hand. She stepped back. In that moment, she saw the end. Not dramatic. Just final. Like a page turned slowly, without warning. A love story unraveled, not in chaos, but in resignation. She packed nothing that night. Took only her keys and her silence. Because staying meant forgiving something she couldn't forget. And she knew that if she stayed, she'd never look at herself the same again. The quiet was unfamiliar at first. No footsteps in the hallway, no sound of keys turning in the door. Just space. Unoccupied, unshared. Mira had never lived alone before. Now, the silence didn't feel peaceful, it felt like absence. But even absence can be rearranged into something livable. She didn't tell many people. Just a few close friends. Most didn't ask for details. Those who did got only this: it ended. Not out of shame, but because the truth felt too heavy to hand over. Some things were meant to be carried alone until they stopped hurting. The first night, she barely slept. Not because she missed him, but because she missed the version of herself who believed love was enough. That girl had been hopeful. Certain. She wasn't anymore. Healing didn't come in grand ways. It came in the small choices. Cooking for one. Sleeping in the middle of the bed. Painting again, not to distract herself, but to remember who she was before everything cracked. The colors came back slowly, cautious. But they came. Oriv texted a week later. "I'm sorry. I made the biggest mistake of my life." She read it, then deleted it. Because sorry doesn't rewind time. It doesn't rebuild trust. It doesn't rewrite nights spent wondering what she did wrong when the truth was never about her at all. He showed up once. Just once. Stood at her door, eyes tired, words rehearsed. Said he missed her, that it meant nothing, that he was lost. She listened. Let him speak. Then asked one question. "If I hadn't seen the message, would you have told me?" He didn't answer. And that was all she needed. She didn't hate him. She wished she did. Hate would have made it easier. But all she felt was distance. Like he belonged to a life she had already outgrown. A version of love she could no longer accept. Time passed. Her heart didn't mend with dramatic declarations or sudden revelations. It healed slowly, stubbornly. She learned to love her own company. To enjoy quiet dinners, to laugh again without guilt, to stop looking back. Some mornings still stung. But most didn't. One day, she stood before a finished canvas. Layers of color, emotion, and release. It wasn't perfect, but it was honest. Like her. Imperfect, healing, real. She smiled not because everything was okay, but because she was okay enough. There were no more whispered goodnights, no more shared routines. Just her, steady now, not because someone chose her, but because she chose herself. She once believed love was about promises. But now she knew, real love doesn't just promise, it shows up, every day, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Oriv was a chapter. Not the story. The story was her. Still unfolding. Still worth reading. And for the first time in a long time, she was ready to turn the page.